it was quite a big hit to take, just because all of a sudden I'm not around this group of guys anymore. I can't do what I love doing and why I kind of have my name for myself. And it was difficult. I suppose, didn't feel lost, but just felt I wasn't kind of good at anything anymore.
Hello amateurs, welcome to episode 56 of the Amateur Rugby Podcast, here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some fun-filled rugby chat about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host Tim, and today I'm in Marrakesh, Morocco. I've headed inland to the big city, and I was hoping to take a trip out to the Sahara Desert this week, but unfortunately there's not enough tourists around, so they've closed it. So I'm stood here on a rooftop. I can see out across the Atlas Mountains. It's a beautiful sight. I'll have to get there and travel there some other time. But my guest today is Mike Rawlings. Mike played for Wadebridge Camels, Cornish Pirates, Launceston and Cornwall. And he's now travelled full circle by returning to Wadebridge as a player coach. This interview was recorded in September of 2021 when Mike welcomed me to the Camels during the Great Rugger Run. We chatted about a career-threatening injury, being academy guinea pigs at the Pirates, early career weight issues, growing as a human at the Cornish All Blacks. There are some cracking stories about bus trips and training ground scraps and Mike's pride in playing for Cornwall. We then discussed coaching philosophies and how player management has changed over the years. This is a conversation with many different levels, funny and thoughtful in equal measures. I hope you love it as much as I do. So please welcome Mike Rawlings. Mike Rawlings, welcome to the Amateur Rugby Podcast.
Thank you, mate. Nice to be here, or nice for you to be here, actually.
Yes, well, it is nice for me to be here, but what an amazing place. It must be amazing for you to be here all the time. And sorry, just so you know, we're in Wadebridge now, yes. The Wadebridge Camels Rugby Club.
Yeah, it's it's Cornwall for one. We're very lucky living down here. Especially recently, like the COVID times we've had, it's been brilliant. Some of the boys being so kind of rural. We've kind of not many cases down around this area as well. So the pre-season training and the rugby ready stuff, we've just had numbers constantly the whole time through it. So this time of year, living down here, especially being here, is perfect.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, we had a little chat before we start recording, and you've unfortunately picked up a bit of an injury already this season.
It's whether I should be playing or not, or getting too old or retirement age. Unfortunately, first league game of the season, all that time out of COVID, all the pre-season to prep, and dislocated my shoulder in the first kind of league game, really. Burnham-on-Sea away, so a nice away visit to the hospital are always fun. But unfortunately, struggling still with it, and see where it goes. It could be just means I have to retire now, but good job on my coach as well, so I can stay at the club.
How old are you now?
I'm 33. So
cool,
so a little bit too early, but maybe I should have said before. I was meant to have retired 7 years ago, hence why I took the coaching. A detached retina stopped me playing a few years back, but I've managed to convince the wife to let me play, but she's put her foot down now, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, actually, because typically people that I have on the podcast I know relatively well.
Yeah.
But obviously, we've just met.
Yes,
but that was one of the bits of information that I did manage to rustle up. So tell me about that injury, when it happened, and what happened afterwards.
So I was playing at Launceston, so kind of went to Launceston when they were in the championship. I think I did 8 years at Launceston in the end. From the championship, National 1, I think I left when we were National 2, or I had to leave. But unfortunately, it was an ongoing thing. I kind of remember sitting down watching TV quite a lot with the wife. I'd get up and start rubbing the TV screen. She kept asking me what I'm doing. I kept saying to her, can you not kind of see the splodge on the screen? And happened a good few times, and she went, look, I think you should speak to your physio. I remember getting strapped for one of the games and the physio going, telling the physio, her giving me a bloody earful, a few effing and blindings saying, what am I doing? Go see someone. After that game, booked in Monday to the doctors. They told me to go to a kind of optician. The optician sat me down for an hour. He's then saying, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm kind of saying, when should I go? And he's gone, you're going now. And it sounds like I was quite lucky. I detached my retina in 8 places. And I think just from the continuous blows of playing, while I think they said it started as one detachment, and then continuous blows and also kind of straining myself caused air bubbles to pop around the retina. And it was moving to my central vision, hence why I was kind of recognising it more, having issues with it more. And within 2 hours of being at hospital, them scanning it, various different lights and lenses being shone in my eye, sat me down. I was in for an operation the next day. Popped my eyeball up my head. Very pleasant. I shouldn't have Googled the operation before going. Take the eyeball out, fix the retina back on. They were fantastic. They were absolute lifesavers because they've saved my sight. But I was instantly told 4 months off work, you're never playing rugby again. And it's all to be digested within like 24 hours. So it was a bit of a shocker, especially I think I was 24, 25 at the time, playing most probably my best rugby I was playing. And kind of had to knock it on the head. And then very fortunate, kind of recovered, wanted to stay in rugby. Wadebridge is actually where I played my first ever men's game of rugby, in my college days, trying to go for a professional contract. The rugby kind of coach, Robin Cowlin, he was called, at the time. He was the Chiefs team manager recently. Basically said, boys, you need to get some men's rugby under your belt. We rang up Wadebridge, my old man did, and said, right, we've got a spot for my son. Come here, walked into a changing room full of smoke and beer and old school rugby players, thought, where the hell am I to? And ended up playing, I think, 3 or 4 games for him while I was at college. And then, so that's started my men's playing career here, and now starting my coaching career here. So hopefully it brings as good of things as it did starting here with my rugby. But we'll see. Nice.
I like it, a nice circular story like that. Just going back to the actual injury itself. So it wasn't an individual incident that did it. It was
no, it's consistent over time. Really, it just I think kind of the TV story is where I first started kind of recognising it. As well as with work, I kind of having to work with levels and getting things level. And sometimes my concentration, I thought it was my concentration causing the blurriness, but actually, unfortunately, it was the retina. And they said I was very fortunate that I detached it from the bottom upwards, because if it was from the top down, the gravity would have took its course, and they reckoned I would have been, once it detaches past the central point, they said I would have been blind, it would have been permanent. So they luckily saved it just in time. Very fortunate and very thankful to the guys there. They were brilliant with managing it.
Mm. Okay, so that must have been pretty hard to take as a mid-20 something, like you say, playing the best rugby of your life. How did you kind of come to terms with it, and how did you deal with it?
Whether or not I come to terms with it, I'm not too sure, because I did a year of coaching and then become a player coach the year after that. But it was difficult. It's kind of for myself. Went from being kind of 25, luckily and very fortunate. I was kind of one of the young leaders in the squad, or I got a reputation for myself maybe as a player or as a character at Launceston, but become a very early leader down at the club there as well. So it was quite a big hit to take. Just because all of a sudden I'm not around this group of guys anymore. I can't do what I love doing and why I kind of had my name for myself. And it was difficult. I suppose, didn't feel lost, but just felt I wasn't kind of good at anything anymore. It's kind of, having something taken away from me that I'm good at, I enjoy doing, I love having a great reputation for, and to have that taken away, I was like, well, you just need to rebuild a reputation again or rebuild a name. And that bit I think I struggled with. I was very fortunate, like I said, Camels, I come here, very lucky the standard I'd played, the guys instantly kind of took respect to me. And I didn't so much have to earn that respect straight away. They kind of knew what my playing history was. they knew where I'd been in Cornwall. Kind of, it's not the biggest of places. You make a name for yourself through rugby down here, and so I already come here with that respect, and the boys really bought in to everything. I bought into the club straight away, as well as with the other coaches, Colin Bailey, who's the club secretary, but he's also the backs coach and skills coach. They kind of bought into what we wanted to bring to the club and how we wanted to play, and I was very lucky on that kind of side of it, and it kind of gave me a different area to get reputation. And then I think I had 2 years coaching here, and then I was Cornwall 20s coaching, helping the youth, and all of that's kind of helped a lot. And suppose.
Yeah, let's go into it. So let's go back into your playing days a little bit, because you were a back rower.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
And you also spent a bit of time down at Cornish Pirates as well.
Yes, so started at Truro College, where it's now a Chiefs Academy. But when we went there, it was I think they were called Swearer Academies, South West England Academies. They had them dotted around the country, as they do Premiership clubs now. Kind of when professionalism was first really kind of coming into the college days, we were kind of, I suppose, the guinea pigs for like full-time training at college and playing rugby and managing players at a young age. And from there, it was linked with the Cornish Pirates Academy. So South West England had a link with the Pirates at Truro, and I think it was my year 5 contracts got handed out at the end of the year to go to Pirates and be full-time players. So I was very fortunate to get one of those contracts and go straight from college into men's rugby. Bit of an eye-opener, and but it was fantastic. It was some great players down there at the time. You had kind of even Watsasagu, who was I think Samoan international. You had Philly Massey, Tongan international. You had Namibian internationals. So all these different kind of international players, and as I think the Pirates have got a reputation for it, it's a great club to be at, and learned a lot from those guys, and I think they taught us a lot as youngsters as well.
Yeah, thinking back to you being almost guinea pigs as full-time student players. Yeah. How well do you think that was done? Obviously, it was very early in this kind of idea. So, were there some good parts or bad parts, or what?
Yeah, I think it's obviously developed a lot now, and those guys are really looked after well and kind of managed a lot better. I think for us, it was good as in, well, we were lucky. We had Ricky Pello was our head coach down there, so he's now Chiefs skills coach up there, and but the level of coaching we had was outstanding, and kind of, like I said, when I come to Wadebridge, actually at the time, the coaches actually stepped me aside and said, "Oh, have you got anything to bring in?" And I'm like a 17-year-old lad at Wadebridge, and because they knew what was happening at the colleges, what the development was down there. But as a player, I think going into like the Pirates, because that was new for them, having like an academy of players, I don't think they quite knew how to manage us. Part of the contract was you get a degree at the same time, so we did have to study. But then a lot of times we weren't studying, we were wanting to train, and never really knew where our balance was. Were we there as full-time? Were we there as just cannon fodder? And I think the pre-season and the start of the season, we got our chances. I was lucky enough to feature in the pre-season game. I went away travelling reserve twice and on the bench once, but it didn't really break in. Not many of the boys did, and I think that was because maybe we weren't quite at the level they wanted us, or back then there wasn't really that trust in the youngsters, and you had to kind of earn that right and earn that position. Whereas now, if you look at the system, especially the sizes of the youngsters come through, God, the strength and condition is different level, and they're managed differently. Like they'll have, through the college days, they'll be sent up to the teams to have run-throughs if they're capable of getting a contract, and they get blooded in a lot earlier, whereas we were chucked straight in. See how it goes, guys. Are you going to be good enough? If not, see you later. And it's pretty brutal. And I think it could have been managed better, but again, where the academies are to now, they would never have learnt that without us being there, really.
Yeah, it's just all part of the learning curve, I guess, for everybody involved in that kind of thing. But you're right. I think it's definitely the case that younger players are more capable or more trusted, like you say, to
Yes.
go and perform at the top level nowadays than they were back then. It was a real tough ask to get through and make a name in the first team.
Yeah.
You know, probably up until you're maybe 19, 20, 21, like it was really difficult to push on through.
Yeah. I think the two that ended up staying the longest were Darren Daverduke, who eventually went to Gloucester as a hooker, and a young guy called Scott Hobson, who went to Bath after Pirates. So they were two young players who actually Pirates was just another stepping stone for them to go to the Premiership, and done really well. But I think whether they're ahead of us in their development, as myself, I know I struggled massively with my weight, and back then in the days of rugby, every position had a body type, a body role, and I think I wasn't the biggest, but I had the engine on me, but it was always, you're not big enough, mate, you need to be 2 stone heavier. And even though you're hitting boys down that are bloody twice your weight, it never really mattered. Whereas now, if you look at through the Premiership, bloody hell, you got different sizes all over the short, and it doesn't matter about size anymore. It matters about your talent. And I think that was one of the biggest things I struggled with, was always struggled with my size, but my talent was always brilliant. And old school rugby, you weren't big enough, you weren't playing.
What kind of weight were you playing
bloody
at?
hell. Back then, I think I went to Pirates, I think I was only about 89 kilograms as a back row. They wanted me 95. I think by the time I'd finished pre-season, I was 91. But I was just
eating everything you could.
Well, eating everything I could. I'd do one bloody training session, lose it all straight away. I had metabolism was great. But then bloody now, I kind of, well, especially since I don't know what happened since having kids. Blimey, I'm up around like 104 mark sometimes, and you kind of look back at why can't I be that size back then? But it's just nice to see now. Actually, you look at some of the youngsters playing, going, it's so good to say coaches don't care about that anymore. Coaches just care on their talent, and they get their shot either way. So
they care about what the actual output, what's actually happening on the pitch. How are you affecting the game?
And the size will come. If they need to be big, they'll get there eventually, and they'll manage them, look after them a lot better. Yeah,
but you know, one door shuts, another door opens,
yes.
and that means you've got to be like a bit of a club legend at Launceston, which is one of the favourite clubs that I've ever played at. Just a lovely, really lovely club there, and great atmosphere whenever you go there.
Yes, especially back then. I know we were there in the Championship for 1 year, and unfortunately got relegated back to kind of National 1, but it was actually the better days because you had Red Roof in National 1 then as well, and a lot more, the fans, especially for the Launceston Red Roof games, it'd be 3,000-4,000 plus sometimes, and to have that on your doorstep was just brilliant. And the club was brilliant. They were, even though you might speak to stories about how the club eventually finished when we left, but those days were just phenomenal for the fans, for the team that was there. My experience and my development, not just with my rugby, but off the pitch, how I presented myself and how I was, I learnt a lot from, especially the old boys. Because at that stage, you still had some proper old school rugby players floating around and having an input with young players, and just kind of not just develop them on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, with whether it's drinking games, whether it's leading court sessions, or speaking to, going up hospitality suite if you're injured, and just sitting down with fans and having a meal with them, and kind of that building that bond between players and fans was really good at Launceston, and it was a great club to be part of.
So you were expected to do that, were you? That was part of the deal, basically.
If you weren't, if you're injured, it's get up, speak to fans, keep everyone, people paying for tickets. It's not just for rugby; it's to be part of the journey of the team. So and it was a good journey to be part of. I didn't mind those days, actually. You had a lot of beers bought for you, so it was all right.
I mean, just thinking, obviously, the other side of that, for the fans, it must be a really interesting thing to sit down with some young men who are, you're watching every week, and you just get a little bit of an insight into their mind of what's going on at the club.
Yeah, especially, it was kind of nice as well, because especially Launceston, most of the fans there, they either had children playing at the club mini juniors, aspiring to play for that first team, aspiring to play national rugby, and whether you're speaking to them about their sons wanting to be taking your shirt off you one day, or whether it's just the old boys that have been part of it from the very beginning, or like you said, just sponsors coming in, and just that. So without sponsors, a lot of these clubs don't survive or don't get the funding that they need. So especially back then, National One was big journeys. It was really, believe it or not, it took a lot of money to run a rugby club at that level, especially down here. Every away journey was a long journey. So even just having that interaction with the sponsors and making them feel as though they're part of that club and what they're actually giving, they're getting a little bit back. So it's important.
Yeah, talking about travelling. Yeah, you guys down here, obviously, all your away games, basically, or the vast majority, are absolute massive journeys.
Yes.
And I look back at my playing career and I remember loving the long journeys, but I think I loved them as much as I did because they weren't that common. Yeah. There was a lot of rugby in and around London, so we had a lot of relatively short trips, so the long ones we loved, but I can imagine doing it every other week, a massive long journey could become a bit wearing.
We went through quite a few coach companies. That way, we got in trouble a lot. But it wasn't, because actually those away journeys are what make the squad a lot of the time. And that's where the true test is, how well you can maybe drink at the back of the bus, or just earning those drinking rights of some of the old boys. And actually, they were really good fun. We'd often, you look back now and go, how the hell did I do it all? And how did I do it so often? But actually, you'd finish half day work on a Friday, jump on the bus, hotel rooms overnight. I think the biggest killer was the likes of like Tyndale, or is it Bladen, and kind of Wharfdale as well, up kind of Yorkshire, Newcastle way. And you play the game and then you've got the 9-10 hour bus journey back, rocking off the bus as the sun's rising and you're hungover already. But yeah, like I said, it actually,
is that the way you did it? You went up, you came all the way back on the bus.
A lot of time, went up on a Friday. We would stay up Friday night, so we're fresh for the Saturday, and then Saturday after the game would often be hit it in a wanna. You're going back, and hence why the bus companies didn't enjoy us.
Were there any specific kind of bus traditions that went on? Was there anything that happened every trip?
We often had, so there's a thing to bring. One of the best ones I think I remember was, thing to bring was a flagon of cider. Nath Hannay, he ended up second row. I think he played for Leeds in the end. Leeds Tykes he went to. Didn't understand what a flagon of cider was. So he rocks up, everyone had to pull their flagon of cider out, old school big bottle of solid cider in there, obviously the glass container with the handle on. And he pulls out a pack of, I think it was 4 Strongbow with little flags sellotaped to them because he thought it meant a flag on cider. Some good times. But every away journey there's a thing to bring. I remember my initiation. I think the initiations were the worst. I think mine was Wharfdale actually, and I had to sit starting at the very front with the coaches and whichever committee members there. I had to have a drink with every single person on the bus, whatever they were drinking, but at their pace. So it started the coaches, it'd break you in nice and easy, and then there's always 2 drinking tables, kind of just towards the back, not quite at the back, which was just full on. And those were the tables which you knew if you were sat at, you weren't walking off the bus. And they would just ruin you. And then you'd have a couple old boys that would look after you before you get to the very back. And I think I made it to the back, whether I drank it all or not. But I remember waking up with a bloody bin bag sellotaped to my ears and my head down. But, so they're heavy drinking. Initiations were fun. But yeah, the main traditions were you had the 2 drinking tables. I think there was often gambling on the way up, or a good few games, Mexicano being one of them, which always went around. And it was, we lost bus companies, but we were very fortunate. We had some of the buses we had we almost felt like proper pros.
Oh, really? The proper nice buses?
You had like the Somerset cricket bus, which was like, you had a big TV at the back with Xboxes and circular seats. You had bunk beds in some of them and stuff like that. And so we were looked after until we lost the companies. But yeah, it was good times, very good times.
Yeah. Now, the thing I remember most about Launceston in terms of playing Was the pitch is enormous there?
Yeah.
Were you playing like a full court game with, lots of wide play at the time?
It varied really. We had kind of a lot of players come and go over the years I was there, but it was a little bit old school playing with, we relied, right, forwards, you need to do your jobs, you need to win the front foot. But when the backs got on the ball, well, we had the likes of Matt Jess there for years, or a good few years before he went to Exeter. And it was like forwards would be told to punch it up, punch it up, punch it up. And we had Tony Yap at 10, who was an Exeter player. And they just managed the game well. They managed the forwards and they wanted it. But it was often forwards do the hard work, get the defence to come in, and then balls out to Matt Jess on the wing. There was nobody catching him back in those days. Yeah. So we kind of knew how to play it, especially with the kicking game. We knew the areas we wanted to play in. But it was very, I call it old school rugby now, but actually it's not really. It's just the game's, I suppose, changing a little bit. But it was forwards knew what their jobs were to do. We knew we had to carry around the corner and open up the field for the wingers. But we were lucky as well. We had our centres, you had Pally Nonu, Mane Nonu's brother, who actually, I wouldn't give it to a forward, we just gave it to him half the time. He'd suck in the defence and it would go out wide after that.
Or you get a slightly easier second carry.
Yeah, exactly. So we were very fortunate. We kind of, every year I'd say maybe our style of play changed with what players were in the squad, and we managed it that way really.
Yeah, and that's the right way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
definitely
the right way to do it. Now, talking about going forward and sort of old school type of forwards, we were chatting earlier about a former teammate of both of ours, Steve Pape, who was there at the time as well. Maybe you could describe some of the things that Papey got up to.
Well, again, I think you know him as Coward. I think we know him as Atlas Head. The bloke is just superhuman strength. From a guy that said he never went to the gym, you kind of, I don't know, he must be secret training somewhere or whatever his mum used to feed him. But we had a kind of a policy, I wouldn't say it's a policy, but back when we were training, doing contact sessions, it would get heated, a lot of guys fighting for shirts, a lot of competition in the squad, and Browner back then, who was coaching, used to be golden rule, boys are fighting, you let them fight it out, nobody interrupts it. I remember Papey in a tight head called Mark Manton, another big bloke, another big head, and they went toe to toe, and to the point where I think it started with headbutts and then into fists. And I remember Browner turning around, looking at all of us, like going, "What the fuck are you boys doing? Get the fuck in there and stop it!" And we all kind of like golden rules. Like, Browner, you tell us not to. He's like, "I don't care. Get in there and split them up." And trying to break those two apart was just, it was a very difficult task.
I can imagine there's a few people look around and went, "Me? No, you get."
Well, I'm very fortunate to play alongside my brother, but I remember him coming back from injury. And I used to play 6 or 8. Tom would be 7, and he was the captain for years. And but I'd been given the 7 shirt. And I remember, I think I got man of the match 2 weeks on the bounce. He's coming back from his injury, contact session. And I remember, I think I cleared him out on the pad and he went on his ass. I remember next time I went to him on the pad, and long story short, should have never happened. 2 brothers have got each other by the collar going toe to toe, hockey style. And again, Browner, the rule was nobody splits it up. So me and my brother had to fight.
I mean, competition's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it was good, and I love my brother to bits, but he always talks about, apparently he saw a red mist in my eyes, but it's lies. I had no objections. But,
are you seeing any of that now still, like within the club here, or do you think it's generally just dissipated within rugby?
Yeah, I haven't seen it for a while. I've got to admit, since I've been here, I think I've seen it once here in 7 years, and I think it is something that's gone. I think you hear about it in the Prem sometimes. About it doesn't take much for. I think when I look at Alan Wynne-Jones, I think he got banged out in Wales training. So it does still happen. I think when boys get heated, but for us here, it hasn't. Fortunately, it was something I kind of liked as a player when I come through. But actually, the more you look at it, the more you realise how bloody stupid it is fighting your teammates. At that point, I think competition is good. And we really like competition here, especially like during the tackling drills. It's right, who's getting the most points, but you set targets to beat them at. We we create a contest, point scoring, rather than saying, right, see who can beat the other one up. I'd rather make it a competition between, if it's 2 sevens fighting for a shirt, going, right, who's going to make the most tackles? Rather than saying, right, who can hit each other the hardest. For us, that's how we're that's how I've changed it here. But
it's probably good for keeping squad members fit
yeah,
as well.
well, that's it as well. We haven't got the privilege of having huge squads to pick from all the time. So yeah, we do need them all on their feet, really.
Yeah, it sounds. Let's just go into the coaching bit. It sounds like you're quite a cerebral coach. It sounds like you also like to let the players make a lot of the decisions as well, if possible. Could you just talk a little bit about your coaching style and what you think your values are as a coach?
Yeah, for me, I think it benefits kind of coming through. I got injured at a young age, but as rugby was kind of changing, I said it was going more from we'd call it the old school game, but that old school of like, right, boys, blood, or make sure you come off the pitch bleeding and rubbing mud in your bloody cuts or whatever it is, or that old school kind of approach to it of like, right forwards, you've got to do the hard grafts. It's not kind of for me. We like to kind of, all of us coaches, I say my brother's here coaching with me now as well, Colin, but we kind of try to develop all their skills. So whether it's a prop stood in the 10 channel, I want that prop to be able to pass a 20-metre pass. I want boys to be able to step up where they can, and backs know the forwards calls and forwards know the backs calls. And we like a real kind of exciting attacking game. But with managing the players, for me, it's, being back in the playing days, being told you must do this, you must be here. It wasn't for me. And you can sometimes take away from players' game that way. I think I spoke to you before and about, especially game days, it shouldn't be about what the coaches want. It should be about how you lot are feeling, and you lot can manage yourselves now. You're all grown ups now. You know what works best for yourself. So we'll have a very minimum input. We'll break down the team we're playing against a little bit, let them know where we think they might be weak or where we're strong. We'll let them know where we might be strong or where we think we'll benefit from. But that can all change in the first 5 minutes of the game. It might be a completely different side that was there last time, because in amateur rugby, it's not the same squad every week and it's who's available, or something might change on the day, weather conditions maybe, and we leave it down to the players. And even when it comes to the half-time talk, I like the players to highlight what's going wrong and let them highlight the mistakes. And if they highlight it, back it up, and I'll back it up with them and say, I completely agree, that's the decisions you need to make. Or we'll just tamper it a little bit to say, right, maybe try doing this, and give them a direction rather than saying, you must take that direction.
Yeah.
If they want to take it and it works for them, let them take it. I think I try not to lose my shit too much. Because just for the fact that I remember winning games at Launceston, and we might have got a bonus point, but we messed up 2 tries. And I remember sat in the change room, door slammed, saying, what the fuck have you done? We should have had those. We just won a game with a bonus point, and the boys don't need to hear that. So I don't like putting pressure on the boys anymore. It doesn't help them. It doesn't really benefit in any way. So yeah, hopefully that was answering the question. Waffling a bit there.
No, but I mean, do you think that helps develop leadership within the squad as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. It's, you can see it in we've got quite a young squad. I think our average age is mostly 24, 25. And yeah, it's like I said to yourself, at half time, we'll speak to the captain and the vice captain only, and then they'll go and manage it. They'll go do the talking. And it seems to work for us, but again, it brings out, it builds those players' development, and maybe just in rugby, but also outside of the pitch. Like, you see them thriving with, whether it's speaking to kind of fans or just managing the boys after the game and actually getting them involved in, whether it's the piss or speaking to the fans or doing social events and stuff like that. You just see them taking more of a lead and just kind of, I suppose, standing that bit taller and chest out a little bit, a bit prouder.
Developing the human as well as the player, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's kind of the approach we like to take. I don't like to manage too much. I like to kind of just direct.
Yeah. So do you, though, the flip side of that, though, is that you might have some players who want to be told. Do you still have players like that? Because I think looking back a number of years, well, certainly historically, maybe 20 plus years ago, most players wanted to be told, do this, do that, do that.
Yeah.
But it was a different time. Are you still finding those players like that?
A little bit. I think more so some really need to be hyped up. So like before in the team meetings, it's not more just kind of direction and pointers. There'll be a lot of motivational speech about kind of whether it's, I'm mostly just to get myself going sometimes, but it will be like, right, we've got a task here, we've got 5 points to win. These boys are coming to our place. It's your responsibility to make our home pitch a fortress. And a few of those players need those motivational talks to actually go, right, actually, yeah, we've got rugby today. We need to get ahead in the right spot. But yeah, it's difficult. We've got one or two young boys. I know, your runs for mental health, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've got one or two boys, without saying names, but they really struggle with their mental health and actually not so much need to be hyped up, but just need to be managed to say, you are doing the right thing. A lot of them overthink and like, will go, oh mate, I did that wrong. And it's like, don't worry about it. It's rugby. You're never making a wrong decision. Whether you've knocked the ball on, that's not necessarily your fault. It's about how do we fix these things, and just helping those boys actually go, mate, you don't need to worry about it. Again, here, it is just a game of rugby. I know we do want to win, but your mistake you might make isn't necessarily the reason we lost. And it's just managing those boys to just make them feel more comfortable that, or whether it's just getting them to rock up for training. Sometimes they're overwhelmed by it and they sometimes can't handle maybe the kind of, whether it's not claustrophobic the right word, but they feel sometimes everyone's looking at them when really they're not. And it's just saying, mate, do not worry and don't feel pressured. Like for us, we're just about the guys having fun and enjoying it. And a lot of the time when you're enjoying your rugby, you're winning your rugby. And it showed we're 3 from 3, 5 points from each game. And it's going, don't worry if you can't make training. It's not a big issue. As long as you can come here Saturday and you can enjoy your rugby, that's the important thing for me. So, I think try not to put as much pressure on boys anymore about saying, mate, you're letting the side down if you're not here.
Yeah.
You're not letting the side down. If you can be here, you can be here. If we are maybe coming up to a very important game, maybe manage them slightly different and say, mate, take your time off you need, but if you can be here 2 weeks time from that training session, that would be the important one. And it's working the boys that way and just making sure they're happy and feel comfortable.
So it sounds like you've got a fairly good handle on all the individual needs of each player within the squad.
Yeah, I like to think so. Or I like to think...
That's the aim anyway.
Yeah, especially kind of like Colin with the back, so he's got the same problem with, it's not a problem, same issue with a few of the players there, and it is just about just enjoying themselves. And if you're feeling like you're that pressured or you're feeling like just take time off it, and it's like just, mate, we'll manage without you for a bit, come back or come along when you're feeling up to it again. And but that seems to have a good positive effect, because actually we find, I suppose I've learned as well as I've gone, because when I first come here I was like, fucking hell boys, like what's the matter with you lot? I was typical, stop being so soft. But then actually when I got to know them as friends rather than as players, I realised actually they are struggling a bit, and actually shit, I need to change my approach here. And I've learned that through being here, and it is just actually, I think if manage them correctly or the right way, they don't kind of go for those long absences and they're not away for a while. They actually go, actually, I'm missing this. I need to be part of that. And actually they feel more secure and better being here. because actually it's as simple as asking if they're all right.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well done for being aware of that, because I think historically, and I mean, when I say historically, back to my playing days, which is roughly 10 years ago, I don't think anybody had any idea about potential mental health issues within a rugby club. I think it was certainly unspoken about, and I'm not sure if many people really understood what issues people might be having. So it's great to hear that, well, that's happening here. So that's a really positive thing.
It's, exactly like you said. I think, bloody hell, if I wasn't up for a game some days, you'd be sat there getting a bloody clout around the head from your prop saying, oh, you think, go on, Mikey Blade, get your head right. And you're like, all right, mate, yeah. Yeah, and it's, whereas here, I think some of the players might still be that way inclined of like bouncing off the walls before a game, but actually, if I look in change rooms now, especially when I was doing the Cornwall 20 stuff, a lot of players just headphones in, they have their own quiet time. It's not about bouncing off the walls anymore or play headbutting a wall to get your head right. It's it is just let them manage themselves. They know what works best for them. So and I suppose it's just picking up, and especially with my guys, if I see they're off or see they're not being themselves, it's just right, have a quiet word, right, are you all right, mate? And just a lot of time it is just asking, are you all right? And it's right, go out, have a storm, we'll do what you do and you'll be fine. So good stuff. Talking about the Cornwall under-20s there, what is it like to be involved in that sort of pathway at the moment, and especially relative to the Cornish side of things? Because I know county rugby here is hugely... Yeah, it is huge. It's huge. I stopped coaching them just as I had my second child, but it was good. It was really good. It's challenging. Like I really enjoyed it. Boys are fantastic. You're playing for Cornwall at the end of the day, and exactly like you said, putting on a Cornwall shirt, it's not putting on a county shirt, you're putting on a country. It's Cornwall's our country. It's you lot that call it a county.
I've heard that a few times on my travels so far.
But it's, you're playing for your country almost, and the boys love it. It's, but you just get so much out of them. Second you're doing representative coaching, they all want to be there. They're there for a reason, and they want to get the most out of it. So coaching wise, it's a dream, because you know you're going to have the numbers. You know they're all going to want to really kind of commit to it, and their focus is. So for me as a coach, I loved it. It was numbers there all the time. But it was just good interacting with the youngsters again, hearing the stories and hearing what they're up to at the weekends and stuff like that, and just having a little input and a laugh, and just making them feel comfortable as well, because a lot of time the 20s is a stepping stone to men's rugby, and a lot of those guys, whether they were Colts going into men's rugby or already playing men's rugby, that 20s just for them as well, it meant they could play with their mates again, have a laugh, then go back to the men's sides, and they are maybe the youngsters in the squad. But no, it was good. The commitment is different. Like I said, it's just different. They're there to play, so you know you can bring in all your drills, you can bring in all your coaching and your philosophies, and they'll buy into it straight away. Whatever you said, they were buying into it. So it was fantastic, really. Yeah,
and did you? So you mentioned there being back around youngsters. Did it make you feel old? Were they talking about stuff that you were like, I've no idea what's going on?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, especially on the bus, on some of the away games coming back, it's a few beers flowing, not having a clue what they're going on. But all the sing-alongs on the bus aren't the same sing-alongs as they used to be. Yeah.
It's all changed.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But you play for Cornwall as well, right?
Yes, yeah. So
tell me about that. What was that like, pulling out on the shirt? And were there any, like, in particular, big fixtures that you remember?
For me, it was bloody very unfortunate. Played, I think, 5 or 6 years, made the men's kind of senior squad. Unfortunately, I think 2 of the times that they made it to Twickenham, I got injured in the semi-final in each. So to say I've actually played for Cornwall at Twickenham, upsettingly, I never have, but my brother has. And the biggest thing for me was every time I put on a Cornwall shirt, I was putting it on with my brother. So for the family and mum and dad, really proud moment. And I think Tom might have captained them as well. But yeah, like I said, it's you're putting on your country shirt for us down here, and it, like I said, a lot of people laugh at it or chuckle at the Cornish lot for it, but it's a proud moment. It really is, and it's what everyone aims for. Like, we've got boys. Kind of a lot of the time, I was at Launceston, so a lot of the time it was Red Roof and Launceston that made up the county side. But now Launceston down leagues, Red Roof's National 2, Red Roof maybe make up a big part, but we got guys playing for Wadebridge Camels on a Saturday. You got Ballard, Humber, our hooker and our 7, and Ballard's bloody holding up a try at Twickenham at the end of 2 seasons ago, winning a Twickenham medal. So to be able to play Western Counties rugby and then go up there and compete with the best in like national leagues, it's really good, and it's something for these guys that they can just aspire to and kind of look forward to kind of maybe making that shirt one day. So it's nice within Cornwall because it's not looked at as like, the best league, boys in the top leagues will play for the county. The county look around all the clubs, you've got guys from Cornwall 1 playing in a Cornwall shirt with Nat 1, Nat 2 players, and it's really good. And holding their own. Like, that's a good thing about Cornwall. Like, boys don't need to be at the right, they just want to play rugby for their club, and can be potential championship players, but going, just actually, I'm happy playing Cornwall 1. Yeah. And it's really good. It's a lovely county to be part of.
Yeah, I mean, the average stamp of player that comes out of Cornwall, I think, is unusually high, isn't it?
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, it's well, you look around the Prem now, and some of the boys from Cornwall that are in the Prem playing, it's fantastic, really. Yeah. It's and it just goes to show, and most of those boys, a lot of them, kind of did get recognised mostly from Twickenham being on TV playing for Cornwall. And that's how they got their contracts. And it goes to show you don't have to be part of a college academy. And I think that's what's one of the annoying things at the minute is, I love the colleges, I love the academies, great idea, but some of the boys that maybe don't make a contract, just go to your club and play your rugby again. Go back to where you will be recognised. And that's the biggest fear. I think a lot of boys think, if I'm not playing the highest level or Red Roof, or if I'm not there training, I'm not going to be recognised. Of course you are. You do a good enough job at your local club, you'll be recognised within the county, and you can get that shirt, and then from that shirt, the whole bloody country's going to see you playing if they go watch the game. So it's good.
Yeah, that's great that pathway still exists. So brilliant. We'll move on now to the Rugger Law Bore section, Mike. And I always say it's just a bit of fun. So
I'm going to get all these wrong.
Don't feel any pressure whatsoever. Yeah. I'm fully aware that nobody, and I'm sure even the very top referees, don't know all the laws.
Do you know the answers?
Probably
no?
not. No. On a previous,
I'll say anything then.
Yeah. On a previous episode, I managed to write a question, look up the answer, and still manage to get it wrong when I ask the question. So that's a good example of how we always get it wrong. But it's time to find out, Mike Rawlings, if you are a Rugger Law Bore.
Sir, are you sure that's correct?
So here's your question. And this is one based on the new laws that have come in this season. So
bearing in mind, we've had 3 games and the referees have messed it up somewhere along the line as well. When you're chatting to them afterwards going, I need to read it myself actually, and you're like, so go for it.
Okay, so Team A on the attack, and they managed to carry the ball into the in-goal area, but then knock it on. What does the referee give?
22 dropout.
It's not a 22 dropout. I'm sorry.
I mean, scrum?
No.
Surely not a goal line dropout.
It's a goal line dropout. Yeah. It's one of the new. It's one of the as well as held up. A knock on in goal now is a goal line dropout as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. Actually, I hadn't really read around it.
No.
But it happened in the Pirates Richmond game this last Saturday. And everybody was like very confused in the stand. Yeah. But the referee got it right apparently. Again, I actually haven't looked this up since. So I could be saying it's correct and it might not be. But
this is one of the things that annoy me about that rule is, they've clearly made a mistake over. So the advantage should go to the defending side.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that I kind of see it as if the advantage is going to the defending side, it should be a 22 dropout. And if it's a try held up, the advantage is to the attacking side.
Yeah.
Because they have crossed the line. And then a goal, it doesn't.
I agree with you. Because I thought it's more, it's better for the attack.
Yeah.
Having made an error, essentially, you're still getting the ball back probably 30 metres out.
That's it, exactly.
And a decent attacking opportunity.
Yeah.
But anyway, unfortunately, Mike, you are not a rugby ball. Okay, on to the quickfire stash questions. What is the favourite bit of kit that you've ever received?
This one's quite recently, so it's most probably because it's most recent in my mind, but I was very fortunate to play in Gareth Steenstone's testimonial game just before COVID. And got kitted up with loads of stash from that, and got to play alongside some absolute legends of rugby. So for me, that was quite a nice moment.
Wow, that sounds epic.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that game.
Very fortunate. My brother's an S&C coach at Exeter, and they're like, look, your brother's still playing. He was like, yeah, right, get him up for the game. And ended up playing for Steenstow Signs against the Legends. And I rocked up late. I didn't know there was a gentleman's rule in place of like, no big shots, boys. And I think I got on, and claim to fame, Tyndall's took a pass above his head, and I've just come flying in, shot straight to the sternum. With that, all the boys on the touchline laughing at my brother, giving him shit, going, "What's your brother doing?" And then clearly learnt the second I come off that there was a gentleman's agreement in place with. But yeah, it was brilliant.
Did you apologise afterwards?
Yeah, I did. It was quite a lot of beers and a little kind of shake of the hand and a chuckle afterwards. But it was brilliant. A lot of the old Exeter squad that kind of helped get them to the Prem, and then some of the Prem boys. And then, like I said, like Tyndall, there was Brian Lima, the chiropractor. Yeah.
And he agreed to no big shots as well, did he?
Yeah, luckily. To be fair, I think he's just past it now. But it was a fantastic day, and it's just being around that environment. It's kind of something I'd never have had the privilege of doing, and seeing how they live on the after piss sesh was quite an eye opener, and a good experience to have with some of those boys. Nice,
good stuff. Okay, what is your favourite kit of all time? It's going to be any kit from any era, any team.
I'm going to be biased now. I was thinking about this when kind of earlier, and it has to be my country's home kit, isn't it? It's got to be the Cornwall shirt. I'm afraid. Although I do like the old school Bath. When I can't even think of what year it would be now. Back in my college days, most probably 12 years ago, I remember, I think one of my first shirts I got given, I think from one of the older boys, was a Bath shirt. And then I remember following Bath, because I had this Bath shirt. And that was kind of my first real follow of professional rugby. I think I enjoyed playing it, but actually at a young age I was never really bored about watching it. Yeah. And actually when I got the Bath shirt, I thought and then watched Bath for a bit, and then I do remember that Bath shirt, but I've got to say, favourite bit of kit, can't go wrong with a Cornwall shirt. Yeah, it's a good looking shirt as well, the Cornwall shirt. It is nice. It's got a certain sort of weight to it, hasn't it? Yeah. Like quality to it. And what's your favourite kit, like a current kit crush, or conversely, is there a current kit that you think is awful and should just be burnt? Not that you guys will know, but we played Chard here a couple of weeks ago. They've got a stinking pink bit of kit. Absolutely. Pink shirts people can pull off, but these were still slightly baggy. God knows what they were thinking. It had, I think, one black sleeve, one yellow sleeve, and it was just so. If Chard hear this, you're away kit, you need to change it. Unless it's for charity, because I remember we did a pink shirt at Launceston for charity. Then by all means carry on. But professional wise, I got to admit as well, like a lot of the Premier shirt, the Saracens one is copping, and I'm not a fan of the Exeter shirt now. No, too black. It's just all plain, isn't it? Now? Oh, okay. But I thought Sarri's kit this year, when they obviously played Bristol on Friday, I wasn't a fan of their kit. Yeah, because normally I really like Saracens kit, but I agree. I don't know. Is it many? I don't know the line in the middle. I just don't know what it is, but doesn't do it for me. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. Okay, cool.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here and taking the time to have a chat. Is there any closing thoughts you want to say or anything else you want to talk
Mate, just from Wadebridge Camels, good luck for the rest of your run, mate. And hell of a challenge. And really good luck and hope it goes well.
Thank you. If people want to get hold of you or Wadebridge Camels at all, how would they best be able to do that?
Up the Camels on Instagram, Facebook. I think it's not getting used that often. The best way is on Instagram, unfortunately. So hook us up on Instagram. Up the Camels, as well as Wadebridge Rugby. Other than that, just check up the Tribute Southwest updates and follow us, and you'll see us winning all year.
That's a big call. Okay, we'll leave it on that. Thank you so much.
Tim.
Thank you, Mike. What an absolute star. It was really brilliant to hear all those old school stories of drinking and training ground bust-ups. But also equally good to hear how things have changed and modern coaching is looking after the player a lot more certainly than used to be the case. Now, as I mentioned last week, I've started sharing some of these videos from the Great Rugger Run on the YouTube channel. And the first one from St Just Rugby Club went out this last week and it was widely loved. So go on to YouTube, search for the Amateur Rugby Podcast and give me a subscribe there and go and watch these videos. There's tons more coming out in the coming weeks. I'll be back with you next week when my guest will be Sophia Dominguez. I met Sophia during a 3-month trip coaching rugby to kids in Africa. To find out all about that and what it's like being a female rugby player in Portugal, hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Now, I'm hopefully going to be leaving Morocco tomorrow. Got a bit of a tricky trip via several cities on the way back. A wedding next weekend in Ireland from a former teammate of mine and former guest of the show, Colin Hannon. And back hopefully in time for Christmas. And as always, don't forget, if you're still looking for Christmas gifts, then you can check out the amateurrugbypodcast.com/Xmas. Now, if you've enjoyed this podcast, you could rate and review on your podcast player. But what I'd really like is if you could mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club. Hope everybody enjoys their last games before Christmas. Keep safe. Until next week, get out and play.